Good morning, everyone. I am really glad that you have joined us for our Monday noon prayer and Bible study and devotion time. I wanted to begin today by inviting you to think back to yesterday. If you missed our service on Sunday morning, you can certainly go back and worship with us through our website, hoodmemorial.org. You can look on YouTube or Facebook for that service as well, and you can kind of get caught up. But we've been talking for the past 2 weeks about mercy. The sermon title, the sermon series is called Have Mercy. And yesterday, I invited you to think about a phrase, a quote from author and blogger Tim Challies that goes like this: mercy is God's patience in action. I want to share a quick story. I struggle with exactly what I talked about yesterday on a daily basis of showing forth the kind of patience to other people that God shows to me. And I think for a parent, it shows up no clearer way than with your children. So one of the things that I find myself and Joni constantly struggling with is when the kids do something that they shouldn't have done, when they find themselves in some trouble, when they make a mistake, when they do something that we have asked them not to do, what do we do? And we have taken time over the years to really think about the way that we engage in punishments with them, what we do as a repercussion for things that the children have done when they've gone astray, right? And we've tried to be, as parents, really, really diligent about what we do, authentic. We've tried to to use a phrase, to make the punishment fit the crime, right? That probably goes against a lot of what we talked about yesterday, but I say it to you because it is a struggle. It's a struggle to know how to practice the kind of mercy that God shows us each and every day in our own lives, in our daily lives, with those around us, when so much around us has taught us and tells us that the punishment has to fit the crime, right? And I say this to you because I think it is an honest, authentic struggle to live out the kind of mercy and patience with one another that God shows us. One of the ways that Joni and I have found that has been really powerful in our lives with our children is pulling back from those harsh, overt punishments and thinking more deeply with one another about what do we want our children to learn from this mistake that they've made. What have they done? And how do we as parents help them to understand why what they did was wrong? And how can we lead them into a greater understanding of what is right? One of the best things that we found with our kids is that rather than begin with a punishment, we begin with a conversation. And so if our kids have done something wrong, we sit down with them and we start to ask them questions. Why? What was going on in your mind, in your head? What were your thoughts as you did this thing or as you said those words? When this happened at school, how did you feel about that situation? And we start to look sort of for those clues in what they say and how they respond regarding what was it that may have led them to take this specific action. And so often it was something like, well, they really weren't thinking at all. They just acted on impulse. Or they were hurt, and so they lashed out. Because, as Richard Rohr has said, if we don't transform our pain, we will transmit our pain. I love that quote as well. It's one you can take with you today again. But yes, we must transform our pain, or we will lash out to someone else in exactly the same way, or in even sometimes a harsher way to them than what they did to us. And so as we have these kind of conversations with our kids when they go astray, we almost always find something that we can teach, something that we can hold on to, that we can pull towards, that allows us to deepen the conversation, that allows us to have, just to take us back to the late 80s and early 90s, I mentioned yesterday that every time I hear the phrase "have mercy," I can't help but think of Uncle Jesse on Full House, and how Uncle Jesse, when something would happen that was great, or particularly when he would see his wife, he'd always sort of respond out of the beauty of that moment or the amazingness or awesome of that moment. He'd respond, "Have mercy." And so we find that moment in that show, Full House. There'd always be, sort of towards the end of the show, that teachable moment, right? The lesson where the dad, Danny, and Uncle Jesse and Joey sit down with the kids on the show. If you haven't seen Full House lately, go get on Netflix. You can binge all the seasons. And they even have a more updated version where they sort of take it on from the kids have grown up now. It's a great family-oriented show that always teaches a positive lesson in each and every case. Well, by the end of every show, they have this sit-down moment where the family's around the table and they're talking through things and they realize what was at the heart or the core of a mistake that was made, and they hug it out, is one of the things they always say, and they find a way to move forward, learning the lesson that needed to be learned. And so that's what we've really tried to take to heart with our kids. We look for the teachable moment. We look for the lesson that we need to learn, and we have conversation. Those conversations have been amazing with our children. They've been so much more profound than anything else we could do with our children in terms of punishments or rewards. They have helped guide our children as they are growing up into the kind of people that we hope they will be. And I think this is the kind of way that God treats us. God talks to us through our prayer time. God speaks to us through God's word. God nudges us through all the people and the things that are going on around us. And that's sort of that sit-down moment with Uncle Jesse and Joey and Danny on the show Full House, where God puts into us through his word and through other people and through conversations, through our prayer, what God needs to put into us so that we might be changed and transformed and live the kind of life that God is calling us to live. Now, I'm going to be honest. Yes, there are often punishments that follow the conversation that lead us to that transformed place. We're going to talk about the way that what we think of as punishment does work in our society this coming Sunday. So I hope that you'll tune back in, because here's the thing. When I left the church yesterday, we were driving home, and I asked Joni, well, how do you think things went? And we always sort of talk and evaluate and think through how the service goes and ways that we can improve and what we messed up on. And we talk through that every week. And I found myself, as Joni was sharing with me, realizing that there's something that I wish I had said yesterday that I didn't say. And that was essentially this. I know that what I'm sharing about mercy is challenging. I know that this is hard. I know that this is not the way the world works. Yes, we have to think about the deeper questions that come up when we start to look at practicing mercy in our own lives and in all of the organizations and the systems and the institutions around the world, right? We alluded to some of those yesterday. And I hope that as we had that message yesterday, that questions did rise up in your own mind. I hope that you begin to think, well, my gosh, I hear what Jason's saying, but I don't know how this is going to work. I don't see a way that for example, in the criminal justice system, that we can do this kind of patient mercy that God shows us. How is that going to work practically? Good questions. Wonderful questions. There are some answers. There may not be all the answers that you're looking for, but this coming Sunday, we're going to dive deeper. If mercy is God's patience in action, one of the questions that I want to explore this coming Sunday is there still some need to set boundaries? I'm not going to go any further than that today, but you can begin thinking about that this week. I hope you'll hold on to that quote that I gave you yesterday. Mercy is God's patience in action. I hope you'll remember this verse that we're looking at yesterday and today, and we'll continue to talk about from Psalm 103, verse 8. I caught myself a few times yesterday saying Psalm 108, so correct me right now. Psalm 103, verse 8. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. I heard a couple things from some folks over text and Facebooks just yesterday afternoon, as a matter of fact, of where this message really touched you and how it was hitting home with you. I want to share two of those real quickly with you today before we get to our prayer time with those who are on our conference call line. One of our members sent, within an hour, I think, after the service was over, or maybe it was later in the day, I don't even remember exactly, and I'm so thankful for this, a devotion that she had read just earlier in the day, or maybe it was after worship. I'm not even sure exactly when she read it. She knows, and she shared it with Joni and I because it intersected with the sermon yesterday. And I want to share with you just a little bit of that. It said this: God chose you based upon his mercy, not your performance. You'll never earn it. You'll never deserve it. You couldn't work hard enough for it if you tried. You couldn't be perfect enough. It's only because of God's grace and mercy that the creator of the universe says, I want you in my family. And if that doesn't encourage you, you better check your pulse. I'm pretty sure this comes from a devotion by Pastor Rick Warren. I think so. I hope I've got that right, and she'll let me know if I got that wrong. But I thought those were great words that absolutely intersect with what we were talking about yesterday. They're so true. There's nothing we can do to earn it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try our best to follow in the way of Christ. We absolutely should do that every day. But we need to remember at the end of the day that God does not give us what we deserve, that God loves us, and through God's grace and mercy, God is constantly drawing us in even when we don't deserve it. No, we'll never be perfect enough, but because of mercy, we don't have to be. We simply have to live and love and try our best every day to follow in the way that Jesus Christ is teaching us. The second thing that I wanted to share with you as a place of encouragement today that I saw on someone's Facebook page a little bit later Sunday afternoon. I saw someone who had watched the service post that her word for the day, her idea, her thought for the day was all about patience. God's patience, her patience, our patience, and that was transforming her day and her spirituality and her moment. And I just think that that's awesome. So I love to hear from you all when something really hits you. It's not only encouraging to me, but it helps us as a church family to grow. As you share one thing, we can pass it on and share it with others, and it really builds us all up. So I'm really thankful for those folks who had reached out, who were really taking to heart the message that God is laying upon us. So thank you so much. I hope this time, whether you are tuning in from our conference call, has been a blessing for you. If you're tuning in through our website or Facebook, we're going to say goodbye to you all now on our video. We're going to engage in our prayer time, but I do want to invite you, if you are watching live on Facebook or our website, to go ahead and type in a chat prayer. You can send that directly to the church right there on the website. On Facebook, you can message that prayer request to the church, and we would love to be lifting that request for you in prayer today. So right now, you can go ahead and take a moment to type those in, and we'll look forward to seeing those and forward to the ways that we can be lifting you up in our prayer as a church family right now. So bye to those folks on Facebook and YouTube and our website. And if you're on our conference call line, stay on. If you would like to join us for this time of intimate prayer, you can call in to 563-999-1222, and we'll be praying together in just about 2 minutes. So thanks, and God bless.